Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. I pray for all those who may run across my messages. Surely, Lord, you are the light in the dark, and Lord, we see the devil is creating lies and deception within this world that you made for us. Thy word says in Romans,
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Deliver us from evil.
Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. No man shall come unto the Father except through him.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? Something I have been saving to work on for some time is the research of ASMR. This has been becoming popular for the past few years and I have not seen anyone speak of it, so the question occurs, what exactly is ASMR? This acronym stands for Autonomy Sensory Meridian Response. What this is the term used to describe a tingling, static-like, or goosebumps sensation in response to specific triggering audio or visual stimuli. These sensations are said to spread across the skull or down the back of the neck and, for some, down the spine or limbs. However, not everyone experiences ASMR, but for those who do, the experience seems to be in response to various triggers or situations involving sight, touch or sound. The intensity of specific stimuli may vary, and while one person may respond to the sound of whispering, another person may experience ASMR while ASMR can occur without the sensation of physical touch and instead through visual and auditory triggers that stimulate tactile sensations. We see such things trending on TikTok, and once we gain an understanding of what kind of sensitivity we are dealing with, let us break down the details of what such sensitivity does. This trend of whispering in one's ear on the internet is taking an adulterous turn, but, yet, it is simply the sensitivity of the voice and or sound that the other individual is hearing. Something as simple as a sound can affect someone in such an odd way. The topic of ASMR gives very similar effects, so why does the human body respond this way? According to NCBI.gov, a study involving ASMR showed that an fMRI-based methodology was employed to examine the brain activation of subjects pre-screened for ASMR receptivity. As the subjects watched these ASMR videos, they identified specific moments of relaxation and what they described as tingling. Upon further investigation, the results of this test is that the subjects who experienced ASMR showed significant activation in regions associated with both reward and emotional arousal. The way ASMR activates the brain, it was shown that activation during ASMR showed similarities to patterns previously observed in musical fears or amazements, as well as affiliative behaviors, which is the behaviors associated with emotional and social bonding. So ASMR already affects and manipulates the emotional and the social behavior of a person. Is this something we should be concerned about? Those who became exposed to ASMR demonstrated regions of decreased connectivity in the precuneus and thalamus, and regions of increased and decreased connectivity in the frontal gyrus and temporal gyrus. In order to understand what this means, we must acknowledge what these parts of the brain perform. Now, the precuneus focuses on representative and self-conscious states, including while at rest. The precuneus keeps your mind in a self-conscious state while at rest. This is quite amazing of the brain's function. The precuneus also functions memory retrieval and self-processing operations, but the question we must ask is, what happens if this part of the brain is altered? Any alteration of this part of the brain results in a range of altered conscious states, like drug-induced anesthesia and even vegetative-like states. Before moving into further explanation, allow me to show you an example of an ASMR video so that you may experience some of the tingling-like sensations. After viewing and listening to this video, I will then make further examination on how this affects the brain and body. Keep in mind, do not focus on the video but focus on the sound and how your body and mind react to the sensitivity. Let us take a listen.
Jinx. ASMR. Alright. So, today I'm actually going to be doing something a little different. Now, I am using a mic I don't commonly use, but to do some maximum sounds and tingles. So this is a high sensitivity.
We can already hear the sensitivity of the sound. The very whisper is so sensitive that the brain reacts in a relaxed hypnotic trance that keeps the mind locked and listening. However, this is only the beginning. Let's listen further.
Some sk, 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 and let's scratch all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, and little tip-taps of the mic.
Once we begin to acknowledge that the brain has a trance-like reaction to sensitive sounds, it is a trend all on the internet. But how did anybody find this out? Was there any experiments that concluded such detail? Who had what done to them in order to find out the sensitivity of sound within the brain? Interestingly enough, I had found an experiment within European neurology that was tested among 12 different patients. In this test, the 12 patients had what is known as isolated PC infarct. This is a type of stroke that occurs within the vertebrobacillar arterial system, which is located within the spinal cord areas such as the brainstem and the cerebellum. These patients were among another 3,800 patients that had ischemic strokes. To determine the most frequently affected brain focus in the patients, they had overlapped the ischemic area of patients with specific cognitive disorders and patients without specific cognitive disorders. Second, they then compared both overlap maps using a subtraction plot function. Upon doing this experiment, what they found was that all of the patients had experienced more than one category of cognitive disorder, except for 2 patients whom only experienced one cognitive disorder. Believe it or not, By this experiment, brain damage was done. The lesion topographical analysis showed that in fact, there was damage within the anterior precuneal region. This kind of brain damage had led to the precuneus serves a purpose within the brain for recollection and memory, mental, imagery strategies, effective responses to pain and much more purposes. Therefore it is a very important part of the brain. But what happens if this part of the brain were to become damaged? According to Karger.com, these kinds of damages would lead to, as what I just showed, from consciousness disorders to self-processing. The rest of the brain is just as important, and I will list to you the cause and effects of certain brain damages, and we will then go into further detail. Like the thalamus. The thalamus is an egg-shaped structure in the middle of your brain. It's known as a relay station of all incoming movement and sensory information and serves well for hearing, tasting, touching, and seeing. Therefore, if the thalamus were to become damaged, you may become unconscious. You will develop fatal insomnia and other horrible effects. The temporal gyrus has been involved in the perception of emotions in facial stimuli. This section of the brain has been discovered to be an important structure in the pathway, which consists of the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, which are all involved in social cognition processes. This part of the brain processes information involving faces, and therefore, if it is affected negatively, such changes like facial blindness can occur. In fact, research had conducted with the use of neuroimaging found patients with schizophrenia have structural abnormalities in the superior temporal gyrus. But it's not just major damage effects like schizophrenia, but also simpler impacts. This brain damage can cause our things in the manner of difficulty identifying certain objects. So to answer of what happens when this part of the brain is damaged, is the fact that it causes disturbances with selective attention to what we see and hear. The frontal gyrus is the left opercular part of the inferior frontal gyrus, which is involved within the articulatory network involving in motor syllable programs. The articulatory network also contains the premotor cortex and the anterior insula. These areas are interrelated but have specific functions in speech comprehension and production. This brain network acts mostly when the vocal tract moves to produce syllables, just as the other parts of the human brain. What happens to this when damaged is in fact personality changes, and according to International Journal of High-Risk Behaviors and Addiction by Nur Mohammed Bakhshani, damage to this region even causes impulsivity. This is whenever a person acts upon something without thinking of any consequences or further action. Now that we have gained a general understanding on how the brain operates and works, let us go back to ASMR. Psychological studies have found that people who get ASMR have higher scores on openness to experience and neuroticism. Now, neuroticism is the trait disposition to experience negative effects, including anger, anxiety, and self-consciousness. It blows my mind that something as innocent as sensitive sound can cause the listener to become more compliant regardless of what the situation is. The first noted evidence of ASMR that I have found was taken by Jennifer Allen. She noted that a tingling would spread through her scalp as she watched certain videos. According to Jennifer, it came in a wave, like a warm effervescence, making its way down the length of her spine and leaving behind a sense of gratitude and wholeness. Allen loved this feeling, but she didn't know what caused it. Through her research, she couldn't find any existing term. Therefore, she made her own, known as ASMR or Autonomy Sensory Meridian Response. She started with autonomous because it was a feeling from within. Sensory was self-explanatory, and meridian worked triple duty, suggesting peak but also orgasm and the energy pathways of traditional Chinese medicine. Response was just to say that it was not a constant state, but it happened in reaction to a set of stimuli, like whispering or gum chewing. Medicine may sound innocent, but it doesn't get any better from there. In the Chinese culture, some healing techniques in fact require some sort of ritualistic display. Simply, examples of such techniques are acupuncture, qi, and other examples like what is called chakra. Chakra is apparently an exercise involving both body and spiritual relaxation, but it is not like reading the Bible. No, it is a darker practice. The question involving these techniques is, what is the root of it all? In simpler terms, what is chakra? Chakra refers to the energy centers we supposedly have in our bodies. There are apparently 7 major chakras, each in a specific location along your spine. This is what the colored circles refers to on the silhouette. The interesting thing is that chakra is related to demons, even included in cartoon shows such as Naruto, which chakra can only be manipulated by demons or those descended from demons. Being in the vicinity of demonic chakra, it can cause weakness and anguish within people. I believe, in my opinion, the absorption of such demonic energy can be absorbed through such rituals like this ASMR practice. I personally think this is so by vocabulary and other evidence I have found. Now, ASMR has the skill set to access parts of your mind. Using careful sounds and microphones, they are able to trigger your mind into a specific state. I have noticed many ASMR videos even contain the phrase trigger within their titles. A trigger in ASMR is that tingling feeling from your head down to your spine. Another topic that contains triggers is known as MK Ultra. MK Ultra is the CIA program of research and behavioral modification. This research consists of drug experiments like LSD. The CIA took heroin addicts and gave them LSD, and if the addicts took the LSD, they got a fix of heroin as their reward. They did research with drugs, toxins, exotic pathogens and their capabilities and effects on the human mind and biological tissue. These experiments were even tested on plants and animals and were supported by the U.S. Army in a project known as MK Naomi. The sub-projects involved in these experiments were given vast amounts of electroshock, harassment techniques, extrasensory perception, gas-propelled spray and aerosols. This is not the only experiment they have done concerning Naomi. They have also done wicked things like controlling the activity of animals, stimulus and response symptoms within the biological system, and what they called assassination delivery systems. Assassination delivery systems were exactly what it sounds like. They were practicing such assassination tactics upon human subjects. This involves research in what they call K, or knockout materials like alcohol, tolerance and hypnotism, as well as LSD. Through these tests and experiments on the people, including psychopathic sexual criminals within New York City, they were able to create multiple sets of identities or personalities within the same person. Just a single MK Ultra project consisted of $375,000. Okay, there are many things within ASMR that are symbolic. On the topic of MK Ultra, the one term that catches my eye is trigger. One of the goals of MK Ultra was mind control. Through a combination of hypnosis and hallucinogenic drugs, along with torture, a human being can be programmed to do anything. When the human subject is activated by pre-hypnotic suggestion, the deeply planted programming takes control and the subject then executes a mission in secret. When the mission is complete, he will have no memory of it. This pre-hypnotic suggestion is known as a trigger. The sleeper agent is activated by his controller, or handler. The handler may use a trigger word or trigger symbol, at which point the unwitting subject becomes a robotic slave, also known as an alter, that is, an alter ego. The trigger may be delivered in person, or over the telephone, radio or TV. For an example, the white rabbit is a symbol borrowed from Lewis Carroll's Alice, who followed a white rabbit all the way to Wonderland. We know this white rabbit represents the handler, who gives the sleeper agent the ability to access a consciousness within them which is normally submerged. An example of MK Ultra, the word smile, or its symbolic equivalent the happy face, induces an LSD-like flashback within the subject, producing a catatonic state known as melting. The controller gives the command to melt with this phrase smile, or happy face, when the subject is needed to wait, which he will do indefinitely until hearing the command to resume activity, which will be another code term or word which will snap the subject back into motion.
Mind control is a sliding scale and can come in many forms, from everyday information control as we see with the corporate-controlled media, to brainwashing, to drugs, hypnosis, and total mind control. The most extreme form of mind control, trauma-based mind control, uses hypnosis, torture, and drugs to create a total mind-controlled slave. The brain, being the incredible computer that it is, creates amnesic barriers around events that would be too damaging for the conscious mind to process. Often, a returning veteran will be unable to remember parts of his deployment. Someone injured in a horrific car accident will likely not remember the entire ordeal. The brain walls off memories surrounding events much like the partitioning of a computer hard drive. By taking advantage of this mechanism within the brain, programmers can create completely dissociated parts within the mind that function totally unaware of one another. The secret lies in dissociation. This special ability within the mind is what allows Navy SEALs to lie motionless for extreme periods, Indian fakirs to walk on red-hot coals, and, as the Spanish learned during the Inquisition, prevent some from feeling pain during torture. Multiple personality disorder, now called DID, is caused by trauma at a young age and can be created deliberately or by accident. Most people can dissociate to some degree, but only a few can create completely dissociated identities. These are the people mind control programmers look for: a dissociative. It is an ability, what some call a gift, and through trauma, this ability can be honed, developed, so that the person becomes more than what they were before: a monarch. It was discovered that this ability could be passed genetically from one generation to the next. Children of multi-generational abuse, for instance, already have a well-developed ability to dissociate. Elite bloodline families traveled to exotic locales such as India and Tibet to study Eastern philosophy, especially yogis and the Tibetan Buddhist, who have an excellent ability to dissociate. They learned the secrets of abuse, dissociation, and its hereditary properties, and set out to pass this gift from generation to generation, a practice that continues to this day. One of the key tip-offs for scientists that memory and dissociation could be passed from one generation to the next was the monarch butterfly. Each year, monarch butterflies from across North America make an incredible journey. From as far north as Canada, millions of butterflies descend on a small plot of land in Mexico for the winter. Once spring arrives, they begin the long journey back. The kicker? It takes 3 generations of monarchs to make the 2,500-mile journey. No butterfly making the return journey has ever flown that route before. So how do they know where to go? The answer lies in what researchers call epigenetic memory. Memories learned by parents, which are then passed genetically to their children. Due to their remarkable ability to pass information genetically, as well as the fluttering feeling often described during dissociation, the monarch butterfly is the international symbol for trauma-based mind control. Trauma-based mind control victims are told to think of the programming experience as that of going into a cocoon. The cocoon is not pleasant, but as a result, a beautiful butterfly emerges. Victims tend to identify with the monarch butterfly. For this reason, the deliberate creation of programmed alter identities is known as monarch programming. Once aware, one will begin to notice butterfly symbolism at an alarming frequency in popular media and culture. Originally, only old occult families possessed the ability to completely dissociate and create multiples. Elite families to this day breed with other such families who have also been into ritual child abuse. This is where secret societies and occult groups come in. Organizations which have, throughout generations, not only curated and cultivated this secret knowledge, but facilitated its practice. These families are multi-generational Satanist, meaning that each generation has belonged to a satanic coven of some kind going back centuries, and the creation of multiples is part of rituals they have performed since antiquity. Programmers have codified these ancient practices into a specific methodology for the deliberate creation of multiple personalities, also known as trauma-based mind control.
Through the information I have shown and provided you, I believe that ASMR is just a smaller version of MK Ultra. Through the sounds and sensitivity in which the videos display, the brain reacts in such a way, and they know this. Be on the watch for a part 2 of this video, for I have much more information to share upon this topic. We can see, through the information I provided, that indeed, ASMR affects the brain, and, my personal opinion, we see that MK Ultra affects the mind as well. Could this ASMR just be a, so to speak, a softer version of mind control? We will see, we will learn, on part 2, in Black Tranquility.